Hi, my name is Jack Milner with Tri-County Inspection Company. Today I was going to talk about fencing versus privacy. Now there's that old saying that good fences make good neighbors, but I'm not a real fence guy. So when I bought this property back in 1987, one of the things that really intrigued me was that they had this whole row of arborvitaes that offered me this privacy, and especially being on a corner with two roads. My neighbors, however, chose to do things a little bit different, and that's not unusual. So my neighbor across the way, you can see he went with PVC fencing. You can see it's opaque, you can't see through it, and if you want that style of privacy, then that's more than fine. Now my neighbor to my immediate right, if you look in that corner behind their trees, you can see a handmade wood fence with some decorative trim on top. And the fellow is extremely handy, and that works for him. But me, being more of a privacy person, I didn't really want to do a fence. So today I'm going to show you various styles of trees that can offer you the privacy, but at the same time be able to enjoy your home without being, in quote, fenced in. So let me show you what I did. So before we turn the corner, I'll let you know what I have on the other side of the green giant. So again, wanted to just point out my neighbor's fence across the street. Again, decorative, only 3 feet tall. But again, designed to allow for view of their backyard, but also to keep the dog contained. Now, being a professional home inspector, one of the things that I have to store are ladders. And so when I moved into the site in 1987, one of the first things I built was a ladder rack. But it was one of those things where I really didn't want my neighbors to see it, because as you take a look, I've got a 32-foot on there, an 8-foot step, I got a half of a 20 down there, and although it's functional, it's out of view. At the same time, further down the driveway, you can see that I have a utility trailer, and I have another little cart that I use for my landscaping. So having a tree like this affords me, at least, my privacy. Now, further down, let's go to the base of the driveway. You're going to see white pines. Now, pines had their time, I believe, as far as privacy screening, but if you take a look, you can see how they kind of thin out as they get older. These trees are probably 25 to 30 years old. So this is one that I put in when I first moved in. Now, I used to have this little tree fort for my son where that Leland cypress is. So as you go back towards the shed, those are Leland cypresses too. Now, one thing about that particular tree is that it grows extremely dense and extremely wide. Now, you see I also shave them so that, it's in line, and the more that you do shave them, the more privacy they offer as they get thicker. And one thing I found about the cypresses is that they grow literally all year round. So even though we're in a dry spell right now, you can see new shoots growing on them. Now, I'm going to take you back to the front of the house where you can see how big these cypresses can grow. Now, in the back of the driveway, we saw smaller Leland cypresses. These are plants that I put in maybe about 10 years ago, and you can see how wide they are at their base and how tall they grow. Now, these do tend to be a little bit unwieldy, especially during the winter months when we get those heavy moisture-laden snows. So these I actually do have cabled to the earth. I do check my cables at least once a year. I want to make sure there's still some slack so they can still grow. But you can get an idea as to how immense these can be. And if I take you over this way, you can also get an idea of their girth. So this tree's got to be almost 8 to maybe 10 feet wide. So you have to be able to afford that kind of a space if you want this kind of privacy. Now I'm going to take you to my neighbor's side just for a sec, and just kind of show you how big they can grow and how much privacy they offer. So now there's going to be one more place I'm going to take you to on the site, and I'm going to show you some of these older arborvitaes as to how they age. So to complete our tour today, these arborvitaes here are actually as old as the house. So the house being 54 years old, so are these trees. But as I was referencing earlier, as they get older, they kind of thin out, and it's hard to keep them maintained. Now, I've trimmed these trees down probably about 10 years ago just to try to get them to grow a little bit fuller. But I figured at this part of my house and my property, I would just let them mature and live out their lives. So today, believe it or not, I do have a fence on this property. It's called Invisible Fence. So it's a wire that's buried underground. There's another company called Pet Safe, but it does keep my dogs on the property. So to me, I love the privacy that these plants offer. Again, we have green giants, we have the white pines. I would probably stay away from the Leland cypresses if you have the space to allow them to grow. And then you don't have to think about a fence. So I hope you learned a few things today. If you like the content, push the subscribe button below, and we'll talk to you next time.